grab the link here so we can tweet it out. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Alex Kahaya. I'm the host of the Index podcast and CEO of ABK Labs. And today we're going to be talking with Ewen, who's the CEO of Nitro Labs. They're building a product that's really cool called Termina, which enables, it's sort of a roll-up as a service specific to Solana virtual machine-based roll-ups. And I know there's more details there that Ewen can share with us when we get going. But just a quick note about this show. The reason we started this show is because we believe in building together. We think open source software is the purest form of innovation, along with my co-host here, Omar, who's the CEO and founder of Mantis. And we leverage this show as a way to share ideas and keep people up to date on what's happening in the Solana virtual machine space. There's a lot of innovative things going on with people experimenting with different architectures and different ways of building SVM-based chains. So that's why we're here, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. Omar, you want to say a quick hi and blurb about Mantis so people know what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So we're building Mantis. It's a Solana network extension empowering best execution across Solana and Ethereum. We're going live momentarily, so super excited to be rolling that out. Fully functional with a bridge between L1 and L2, and then thereafter the protocol.
Wait. When you say momentarily, what are we talking about here? Like in like 5 minutes?
We're talking about
Soon
sometime
TM. So
yeah.
really, all right.
Yeah.
You got that's cool. That's a pretty big announcement. Let's hope that goes well. Best of luck to you guys. I know it's been a lot of hard work to get to this point, and yeah, really happy for you. Ewen, do you want to jump in and just share people like just to start off, just talk about why you're here. What got you guys started building Termina, which is the name of the product, and why is it important to you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, congrats, Omar. That's really exciting, and thanks for hopping on the recording as like Mantis is going live. But yeah, to answer your question, Alex, let me share briefly about sort of like the origin stories of Nitro Labs and where we came from. So for me, I've been in crypto for the past couple of years, but primarily in the Ethereum ecosystem in the beginning. So we actually started getting deeper and deeper into Solana post FTX, which was a very interesting time because that was when a lot of people were leaving the community and being bearish about this ecosystem. So for me and Kevin, who was previously on the Index, this pod with you previously, for us, we looked at things from primarily a first principles perspective. So we were really bullish about Solana for two reasons. One, the Solana virtual machine as a technology, parallel processing, state compression, a bunch of other things that are table stakes that Ethereum does not offer. And then two, also the ecosystem. That may sound counterintuitive, but with a lot of people leaving, we saw the teams who stayed, they were really building cutting edge, innovative use cases, and they were in the ecosystem for the right reasons. So with these two as our main rationale, we placed our bets on Solana and made the prediction that the community would have a resurgence. Unfortunately, we didn't have to wait too long before that kind of market correction came about, and we saw this renewed interest in deploying and building on Solana. So that is like the TLDR.
That's awesome. And yeah, your timing couldn't be better. I mean, I feel like we're just getting started, but almost every single day I'm seeing on the timeline how Solana is flipping all the major metrics of Ethereum. And I love Ethereum. It's one of the big reasons why I got into crypto was ETH. But, I think the proof is in the data as far as the adoption and the flows of capital and users, as far as like what they want and where they want to be. And it's clear that it's Solana right now. And yeah, so if you're a builder out there looking to ship something, it's a good place to start for sure. What can you maybe dive into what's going on with Termina and the product and kind of the problem that you guys are solving with that?
Yeah, for sure. I lost your audio there for a bit, but to reiterate the question, what are we doing at Termina or at Nitro Labs with Termina, and what is the like ELI5 of the product?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the team or company name is Nitro Labs, and we're building Termina, which is like a Solana network extension platform. Um, it's you can think of it as being similar to RAS, but really it's a bit more broad than that. So we have a network extension stack that we're building because we saw multiple occurrences, multiple instances of different Solana teams kind of rebuilding, reinventing the wheel and doing the same thing. All of these teams have some need that cannot be served by Solana L1 directly, and so they've invested their own resources, their own time into building some sort of off-chain L2 network in order to support their workloads. And so we want to build this infrastructure for other teams so they can focus on their business application logic at hand instead of diving deeper into the infrastructure. The network extension stack composes of different modules. So some of the teams that we're working with are actually just using one module or two modules alone instead of the whole stack. It's not all or nothing. Um, Specifically, we have a SVM engine or just an SVM execution layer that certain teams are taking and running with. We also have fraud proofs, so like a ZK SVM that we're currently stress testing and like working through with other teams that need to prove their execution. And then we also have this data module, which we're using to post the transactions and state of the network extension, but other teams can also use it if they're generating a lot of data. So essentially, like a data vault of sorts.
That's really interesting. So can you give me some examples of some of the use cases here that like, what are some of the problems that teams are trying to solve? What features do they need extended from mainnet that they can't get on mainnet? And just some of the drivers behind the usage that you guys are seeing.
Yeah, for sure. So, for example, there's one team, a gaming team. I won't say the specific name because we haven't publicly announced with them yet, but they're interested in exploring the ZK SVM because they want to have most of their computation or execution off chain. It's too expensive to have on chain directly, but they still want to prove or verify the execution was done correctly. And so they're using the ZK SVM to generate proofs, and then those proofs get posted and verified on chain.
Interesting. Omar, do you have like maybe a little bit more technical question to ask?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah, I guess like what we've talked about this before also. What's gonna be the preferred or like the style of bridging between L1 and L2, and are people gonna be able to configure that, or like are you guys trying to have some sort of canonical thing that people use for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, it's pretty standard. You would just deposit your tokens on Solana L1, and then we have bridge nodes that listen for transactions, deposits, and then we'll um, kind of mint the equivalent amount of tokens on the L2. So from L1 to L2, it's immediate instant process. From L2 back to L1, it would you cannot complete the withdrawal process until after the challenge window has elapsed, which I think are all pretty standard qualities of L1, L2 bridges.
What's
I
the
like the
challenge
mod.
window? Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
was,
You asked what the challenge window was?
yeah.
Yeah, it would be 7 days at the max, and that's with the traditional bisection algorithm that's popular in Ethereum rollups, but we're looking to actually get the challenge window down to just a few hours with ZK proofs.
I was going to say I like the modular approach and that people can kind of pick and choose components. And you know, it sounds like you got a couple things. I think I heard like three different modules,
Yeah, three
maybe
main ones,
four.
yeah.
Yeah, three main ones. What are some of your hypotheses around the different other modules that you're seeing that people might want that you haven't really implemented or tested out yet? And second part question, like, what's the revenue model here for you guys? How do these how do people just pay you directly, like as a SaaS kind of infra company, or how does that work?
Yeah, both questions, really good ones. So for the modular component aspect of our architecture, I think recently one of Caldera's co-founders was on a podcast and shared that they do something similar. So it's great to see that there's convergence in these ideas across ecosystems. Um, for the modules that I mentioned, those are the main ones we're focusing on now. But I think in the future, um, those can potentially get broken down even further, like with the ZK SVM, potentially just certain types of transactions are the most common, and so we are just focusing on optimizing for those. For the data aspect, um, I think right now there's a lot of knobs you can turn and tune in terms of what kind of data you want to post and what is like the commitment level or attestation level to that data. So I think over time we'll just be more specific as we see the types of ways people are leveraging these modules. For your second question about um, revenue pricing model, right now we're more focused on growth than revenue, but we do plan to have a SaaS approach, which is what these RAS projects in Ethereum are adopting. So Caldera, Conduit, Alchemy, Altlayer, these I believe they all have a base fee of several thousand a month, but if you have certain add-ons, like if you use different things from their marketplace, then it increases from that baseline. So it can be, I think, certain platforms offer as low as like 2K, and then if you have more and more requests or uh, marketplace add-ons, then it can go up to like the high thousands. So
Yeah,
maybe,
that makes a lot of sense to me. I also think there's a interesting company out of Santa Barbara, and I'm blanking on their name right now. I'll find out after the show and tweet about it. But I've talked to them a couple of times, and all they do is they take OpenSea's open source protocol Seaport and host it for L2s. They literally just host the endpoints, and then developers can come and use that developer tooling and hit those endpoints. And that's not exactly what you're doing, but there's some like similarities there, and like you can that can apply to basically any SVM chain, right? Like it's mainnet is a great place to start, but also as you start seeing more and more network extensions and different kinds of networks popping up, hosting these API endpoints for people is going to be a valuable service, and they did really well with that on the L2 in the L2 space. They probably have 30 employees or at least, and they've got revenue and things like that. So I think it's interesting to see these kinds of services pop up. And I think the other interesting opportunity for you guys and other people in the space is like Seaport's open source, and there's a lot of good open source software out there that you can just make available via API to people, to developers, right?
yeah, for
With
sure.
infra.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this is a pretty common setup in Web 2 as well, where you're not paying a company for the software, you're paying them for the service. When you look at AWS, most of the code that they run is open source. You can run it yourself, but you're paying Amazon for the convenience of running your databases for you or your servers for you.
Yeah, and this is really how we look at our products at ABK Labs as well. Like we have this product called SVM Kit, which automates a lot of the operations of building a network and running a validator or RPC or any other kind of infrastructure on Solana. And it's less on the modular components that you're talking about, more just like the operations of those components. And our model is just a little bit different, that we don't have like a hosted service. We're more enterprise bent at our company, where we like work with different SVM teams to maintain and then deliver that software to them so that their ecosystem could use it. But I think one interesting thing that I think we talked about this at Breakpoint, and I want to see how your perspective is here, is like partnering with teams like us and other teams that are making this open source software to just enable it through your service, right? Like enabling people to just, I don't know what the revenue model would be there for them, or how you would think about that. But it seems like, yeah, for people who just want to write the software and not necessarily maintain the service, like actually run the service, because it's different. They're very different things. I think there's an opportunity there for developers to partner with you. So I'm curious to hear what your thinking is, or if that's something in your roadmap.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely still something we're very interested in. Just offering these different types of, well, I'll divide them into two categories. One is like marketplace add-ons, so things that you would want on your network, maybe Oracle data, maybe other data integrations. And then two, what you're talking about, Alex, with these different kind of SVM offerings. And I think in our private conversation at Breakpoint, I mentioned some of the other offerings that we're thinking about adding, but because those are not public yet either, we'll just omit that for now.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, no
but
problem.
I think both make a lot of sense and to offer on a platform where people can just click and deploy instead of having to spin it up themselves, manage their servers, make sure it's distributed, so on and so forth.
How are you handling the hardware part of it? Like, do you have partnerships with the hardware provider to get you infrastructure just in time? Like, how does that look for you guys?
Yeah, it's we're using serverless and we're using a combination of cloud and also like crypto Web3 providers. But serverless just means we request things as needed on the fly. I think as we scale and as like more and more volume demand comes in, we may keep some instances um, like at the ready for one demand spikes.
Okay. Omar, you got any more technical questions for us? I'd love to dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so how are you guys gonna configure, like, are you guys going to do any custom work for validate, like, for the actual client itself? Because I guess like how we're doing things is we have we've separated block production and actual posting to L1. So we have like one actor is posting to L1 and another actor that's producing blocks. And we did that because it's faster, but also because it's um, more configurable in general. Like we don't have to have like a whole new piece of like stuff bolted onto the validator client. So I guess what is the sort of level of customizability that you're anticipating for, and what are those customizations? Because everyone says like customizing the SVM, but I don't actually know like how many people are really legit thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question as well. So we are separating the validator in the sense that we have execution, but we're also posting data to the L1. Those are two separate components or processes. And then specifically, we've had to make changes to Agave and to get like deep into some of the internals just out of necessity to make it work with a ZK VM. Shedding a bit more light, Agave was, and specifically the BPF virtual machine within Agave, it's designed or it doesn't account for 32-bit hosts. And so it runs with the assumption that it's always inside a 64-bit host. But a lot of ZK VMs like Succinct's SP1 and also RISC-Zero's ZK VM, they're 32-bit RISC-V VMs. And so when you try to run the RBPF VM inside these ZK SVMs, there's a lot of issues that happen because the bit size does not match up. And so we've had to go in and do some work to make the two compatible with each other.
That's cool. I love hearing about the technical details there and like digging into the validator code base. I think it's one of the least understood and harder problems of doing anything like this when it comes to these kinds of customizations. Tell me a little bit more about your team, like because you must have a pretty strong engineering team to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoy working with our engineers, and I think we're a pretty productive team despite our small size. So overall, we are 7 people, including myself, and we're pretty distributed. So we have folks in the US, we have folks in Europe, and then also in Asia as well.
How do you make that work? Like as CEO, how do you actually keep up that remote team and the cadence of shipping?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just online all the time. I'm chronically at my desk, but we do have weekly stand-ups or syncs where we talk on a call to just get things sorted out. But our team is really good about async communication, so we leverage Slack and Telegram and other things.
I kind of would pose the same question to you, Omar, especially as somebody who's literally launching their entire protocol today. Like, what's it been like to get to this point, working with Solana, building an alt SVM or network extension, and managing what I think is a pretty remote team as well, right? Like you have some people in New York, but you're also just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think this space is really cutting edge, right? So a lot of it is like deciding what makes sense with the current like research lore essentially, and then trying to implement it as quickly as possible. But obviously, like there's always this coordination aspect that is just hard, right? Like with async, inherently you're losing, that duration of time where someone's replying to you. Um, so it is like just challenging. So like for me, like I'm getting up like absurdly early to work with the Europeans, for instance. Um, and yeah, I think it's, all these things sort of contribute to just like more and more stuff to take care of, which is not, it's basically the experience everybody has when you have a remote team, basically.
One thing, because our team is really remote too, and one thing we've been using lately that's been mandated by my partner Alexander Guy is Linear. I don't know if you guys have used Linear before, but it's like a
Yeah.
productivity. Yeah, we love Linear, and I like he kind of red pilled me on it because when he showed me they have this thing called the Linear method. It's like linear.com/method or something. You can find it online, but it maps out kind of their philosophy on productivity and using their product. And I've started having basically every new hire read that as the part of their onboarding because I know it sounds kind of bureaucratic, but we like Linear is our Bible. Everything that's happening across the company lives in there, and it's very action oriented. Like everything is tied to a concrete deliverable and an action. And then we have that connected to Slack so that anytime someone completes something, it gets shipped in the channel that it's related to. Like we even have one for business development, which is kind of my area, that like the thing that I own. And so people can start seeing, oh, a lot of these tasks are getting knocked down by, various people on the team. And it kind of creates this cadence of shipping and like people seeing it in public, stuff getting shipped. Have you like, what's been your experience with it, Ewan?
We don't have the Slack integration, and I'm not familiar with the linear method, but I'll definitely check it out after. But we use linear for everything on the Inch side. So every ticket has a pull request associated. Every like debugging task has a ticket associated too. So yeah, I think it's just way better than Jira. I'm not sure if you guys have used that before as well.
Yeah, I haven't used Jira, but it's actually something that Lily Liu also played a pretty. She's the president of the Solana Foundation. Played a big influence on me on that because she's very like hyper focused on productivity and uses a bunch of different tools. And I probably didn't take to it as much as everybody would have liked when I was working there. But at ABK, it's become like the driving force for our efficiency, and it's helped us a ton. And I like the linear method is super cool. It's very customer development focused, like focusing on customers and getting that validation from customers, but also their sort of protocol for making issues and projects and initiatives and things like that causes the team to actually have things that you can deliver on, right? Like because I find like a lot of times these productivity tools, for me in the past, they've ended up being just giant lists and nothing is getting checked off and it's kind of becomes garbage that way. And so I've been trying to be very disciplined about how I even write down the tasks and the things that I say. And one part of the method is that like any person, like let's use an engineer, for example, when you make an issue, it should be written so that like any engineer can come and look at that and do the job. Like anybody with the requisite skill would have all the information they need to knock that ticket down for you. And I think like that mentality, it's been really helpful for me because I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I can't really do those, but at least people can kind of understand what's going on, right? Like you can understand what's actually happening across the company. And then I found the views feature to be super useful too. So like I can create different views that tell me the percentage of completion for every project. And if something gets in the red or the yellow, I start asking questions, So I've started to live in linear. Like I spend the first like 30 minutes of my day just like looking at linear. And it's been really useful to me. So yeah, anyway, moving on from linear. Talk to me, and I'd love to hear from you both about this. Talk to me about recruiting. You know, you've built a great team of 7 people. Omar, I don't know how many people you have in our team now, but you know, how have you gotten like found these good engineers that can do that kind of work?
Yeah, it's a combination of like word of mouth. So I'm speaking for the company as a whole, including folks on the growth side. It's a combination of word of mouth referrals and also working with recruiters. And I think the trick to working with recruiters is you can't just work with one firm. Like you work with 5, and then you'll get like a huge volume of inbound. And for that, it's kind of just a numbers game. If you have more inbound, more candidates to filter through, then at the end of the funnel, you'll have more people to pick from and to select to join your team.
What about you, Omar?
Yeah, it's a similar process. I'd say also like the more hiring you do in the bull market, the shittier your candidates generally. So I like every time there's a bear market, I really try to hire as many folks as possible for like all positions because like those are the people who really want to be in the industry. What you get a lot during the bull is just like a lot of just people who hop around from project to project and like expect really high pay and like packages and then go somewhere else like 3 6 months down the line. And especially with engineers, like it's almost more detrimental to bring someone in and then have them leave in 3 to 6 months than to have someone like really stay for a really long time. I think it's not as true for some of the other types of roles, but definitely for engineering where you like have a stack and people need to learn your stack. Um, that's I definitely stand by that for sure. So yeah, we have a similar
100%.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's really tough. It's really tough, and I think you're right about the bull market thing. The thing that runs in my head is like, is this person authentically motivated to be here? You know, are they hungry? And I don't care how accomplished they are in their career. Like, do they still have the dog in them to grind and to ship out of passion? It's a really tough thing to find because especially the thing you're talking about that comes out in the bull market is mercenaries, right? Like, you don't want mercenaries, you want believers. And it's one of the reasons in our company we really focus on why we're here. You know, just build together. We believe open source software is the purest form of innovation. We want other people who believe in that and who way before we hire them are like already hacking on the code base because they think it's really cool and are inspired to do that. So if we start seeing that and they do good work, we're like, okay, this person could actually be a long-term fit for the team. But yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging to get those core people on board. Probably the hardest thing, I think. So interesting to hear how you guys think about that. So we have only got a couple minutes left. Yuen, what have we not talked about that you want to share with the community?
Yeah, for sure. So a couple weeks ago, last month in October, we announced our fundraise, and then along with that announcement, we also shared that the network is currently in what we're calling the private alpha phase of DevNet. And so, as I mentioned, we've been collaborating with some of these teams as like very early stage as design partners, and we're happy to launch instances and work with other folks who are interested as well. So please reach out to me or to our team if you want to speak further.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate you joining and wish you the best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Good job, guys. That was fun.
Yeah.
I like that we went a little bit like